Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Secretary, for being here. I just came from questioning Undersecretary Sue, so I guess I'm all primed for secretaries. And,
all right.
I'm hoping your answers will be fuller and more complete than hers were, so I'm not cursing the project. Under President Biden, the Department of Energy has completely shifted its mission regarding energy security, reliability, and affordability. The department's spending priorities, which sway heavily towards renewables, and the administration's overall anti-fossil policies will increase costs for consumers and crowd out opportunity for expanding nuclear and advanced fossil technologies necessary for American manufacturing resurgence. President Biden says he wants everything made in America, but his environmental and energy policies say opposite. As the chair noted earlier, manufacturing isn't the only thing impacted by these policies. Retail rates for our constituents are also going up significantly, surpassing the rate of inflation. I just have to look at the Wall Street Journal article that found that electricity prices here increased by 30% since 2021, 50% higher than the overall inflation rate. That was the case. Families are paying more, and what are they getting out of it? And so the department has set aside billions for interstate transmission projects that serve the renewable goals of differing states. However, those projects have faced serious delays or have been canceled. By one developer's own admission, the project was not viable. Transmission build-out already necessitates increases in retail rates that everyday Americans have to pay. Madam Secretary, how do you justify those costs as you push build-out based on political goals and not reliability or economics? Beyond that, why should taxpayers pay for these projects that are not viable on their own?
All right. So first, nice to see you. We need to make sure that we have a reliable grid.
Agreed.
Right now, the PUCs across the country are putting onto ratepayers the cost of making that grid reliable, shoring it up. It was built in the 50s and 60s. It is old, and a lot of these utilities go to the PUCs and rate base the upgrades to the grids. One of the things that we had suggested previously, this administration, was to get to have that be part of an infrastructure project, a national infrastructure project that we take on as a nation to have a reliable grid through, for example, investment tax credits for building up the grid. We don't have that, and so that's why these prices are going up. The president, the administration is obsessed about lowering prices, and that's why the focus has been on what can we do to, in the scheme of things,
We
to
saw
lower
lowering
costs.
prices take place before this administration took
Yes.
office, and they were going down significantly
Because
with
of
greater
COVID.
independence.
You can't complain. You can't compare anything that happens today with what happened 4 years ago, because we were in the middle of a pandemic and everything dropped through the floor. The legitimate comparison is before that. But no doubt, before that, there was still investment in grid, but not as much that is necessary. We need a bigger investment in our national grid, and we need to have it paid for.
Well, that's where promoting the opportunity of the free market, of our private sectors, to do the jobs that they're capable of doing without the excessive regulation and, I would say, respectfully, interference from the federal government that just isn't working.
Well, that's why tax credits are a great thing, because they are government-enabled but private sector-led, and we operate in partnership.
And taxpayer
with the private
supported.
sector. Yes, of course.
Taxpayer funded.
The infrastructure that we need, the roads we drive on, the
Let me jump in
transmission
one
wires
other thing.
are paid for by the taxpayers.
The EV mandate that we have, jumping to that area, and the grid security, which you've mentioned, based on the success of the IRA and IIJA, as well as the dependence on consumer restricting solutions like managed charging, forgive me if I'm skeptical of those two entities. The White House also estimated that these laws would help build 500,000 EV charging stations by 2030. In the last 2 years, they built 7. How are we going to complete that? And what does that mean to the citizen?
So, number one, we are at 171,000 charging stations, largely driven by the private sector at the moment, and the goal is to get to 500,000. What the electric vehicle initiative was doing, the NEVI, National Electric Vehicle, was to give funding to the states to be able to fill in the gaps where the private sector has not gone. And in order to do that, that means that a charging station is going somewhere where it has not been before, where there may not be electricity because they're filling in a gap. And so
Seven gaps.
well,
the
but,
500,000.
but here's the thing, is that it takes 18 months on average to get the electricity, the planning, and the permitting for one charging station. So now all of them all of them have gotten their money. I have got 35 states that have released solicitations for the installation of
Let's reduce all that time.
21 states that
I'm
have
well
announced
over, and I
awards.
will
And
yield
it's all
back.
at the states, and, continue to press on all of your governors and your offices to make those happen quickly.
Gentleman's time's expired. Now we'll go to Ms.